wondering, have you found any other anthropological studies on crime and policing that would have parallels or similarities to your study into that?
Yes, lots. And what is interesting is that most societies find themselves, they feel that their situation is exceptional. And South Africans are very quick to say we've got the highest murder and crime rates in the world. I meet friends from Brazil and they say, you know what's amazing about Brazil? We have this interesting, dynamic society. We're good at soccer and we produce fabulous popular culture. But we have this incredible crime problem. We have the highest crime rate. Now I'm finding in Europe, you think places like, for instance, Holland, until relatively recently, seem to be a very secure and liberal place. Legalized pot, had very emancipated laws about things like euthanasia. Over the last 10, 15 years, at the same time that they've been worried about losing their identity and the Muslim threat, there suddenly is the sense that they are overrun by crime. I go to Holland, to me it seems still a fairly safe place. On and off public transport, small people know their neighbours. They are obsessed with the fact that there is now a rising criminality among them, and they don't know their neighbours anymore, and you can't trust each other. And that, to me, when I read it, sounds very similar to what the South African situation is like. So it raises the question, why now? How does this have to do with changes in the nation state, in our sense of borders, in our sense of citizenship, in our sense of security in life and work? And our threat, the threat to life and limb and property is often symbolized in the idea of the criminal and their accessibility, that somebody can come from somewhere and just attack you and take what is yours. So yeah, there are similarities. Of this particular study. You know, I think there are a lot of issues. A part of it for me is political. I am interested to know why it is in South Africa and in much of the US that the people who are most obsessed with crime, and therefore the law and order that comes with it. The idea in America, for instance, that if we can only get certain criminal elements under control, all will be fine. Now, if you look at the statistics of who is in crime, in prison in America, America incarcerates a higher proportion of their population than any other nation on earth. But ostensibly it's a set of freedom and it's exporting its model elsewhere. Who is in prison? Disproportionate numbers of young men of color. Right? And this is also the population that is suffering the highest unemployment, the highest disposability in a world that's no longer based on a certain kind of labor force. So to me the issue is that one has to try and, as best one can, and sort out where there appear to be real increases in what we might define as crime, and what counts as crime is a moving margin. We criminalize and decriminalize things. These are parts of history and culture. But what really counts, is it true that there is more crime and more vulnerability in a city where people don't have work? Do people turn to carjacking, as they say in South Africa, because it's an easy way of getting something you can sell? And they're doing it because of economic hardship. Do they do it because we are so involved in a culture of commodities and desirability and having, that it almost is okay to do this because it's a sort of way of making a living like anything else? Or is a lot of the obsession actually in the mind of those, it captures, if you like, people's fears, but it doesn't really tell you anything about the real world. What follows from that in policy terms is tremendously important. I think in South Africa, if you could find more jobs for people, there would be less crime. But also, apart from that, I think the obsession with crime is a displacement for people's insecurities and for a host of more complicated things. But it often results in very punitive action. And that's where the politics and the ethics of this question come to. And that's where I would say it goes.